Did you know that 1 in 3 people will be involved in an alcohol-related crash in their lifetime? This year, 10,839 people will die in drunk driving crashes. That's 1 every 50 minutes. Every minute, 1 person is injured from an alcohol-related crash.
Good morning, Lexington. My name is Megan, and today I'm reporting live from yet another alcohol-related incident right here on the University of Kentucky's campus. It appears that 2 young women chose to get behind the wheel after a night of partying, resulting in a crashed car into a tree. Luckily, both the driver and passengers sustained only minor injuries. Let's talk with our victims and get a better idea of what went down last night. Hi, can you tell us your name?
Anna.
Hi, Anna. Tell us a little bit more about your night. How much did you drink?
Well, I went out around 11, and I probably had about 5 shots and 2 beers throughout the night. Then around 2 a.m., the party was dying down, so I decided it was time to go home. My car was parked a couple houses down, so I decided to drive me and my friend the short 5 miles to my apartment.
I'm sure you've heard this before, but you should never drink and drive, no matter the amount you've consumed. For all of you listening, did you know that the legal blood alcohol content is 0.08, and if you're under 21, any alcohol content is illegal? According to A Drug-Free World, alcohol immediately begins absorption into the bloodstream from the stomach, where it then takes minutes to reach the brain and begin its suppressive effects. From there, the remaining 80% of that alcohol is absorbed through your small intestine.
I didn't think it affected me that quickly. I mean, I knew I was a little buzzed when I left the party, but I thought I was good to drive. I was walking fine.
Why don't we take a more in-depth look at the physiological effects that alcohol can take on your brain?
Your brain controls everything that you do, and alcohol can make your brain think in different ways because it interferes with your brain's communication pathways. This can cause your mood to change as well as your behavior. When your behavior changes, it could affect some of the decisions that you make based on how you feel under the influence. Alcohol can make you do some things that you would never imagine doing sober.
There are many consequences when it comes to drinking and driving. After an interview with a Lexington police officer, we found the legal consequences include temporary impounding of your vehicle, the towing costs come right out of your own pocket, fines of several $1,000s or possibly more, installation of an ignition lock, which prevents you from starting your vehicle without a breathalyzer test, probation, jail time the night of your DUI as well as possibly after your court date, revocation of your license for a few years depending on your age, many hours of community service, substance abuse classes that you are required to pay for out of your own pocket. When interviewing a student at the University of Kentucky, she said embarrassment was one of the worst consequences of all because nobody feels bad for you after getting a DUI.
Now that you know more about the toll that alcohol takes on your brain, as well as the serious consequences that can arise, what would you have done differently if this situation ever occurs again?
Well, I certainly wouldn't drive again. I probably wouldn't even have a car for that to be an option. I don't know, maybe walk.
Well, luckily for you and any other students out there, there are a variety of services available to ensure that you get home safely. These include Lyft and Uber, which work almost like a taxi service but much cheaper. You simply download the app, enter your credit card information, and request a ride. If you don't wish to pay, there are free university-sponsored services, including Cat's Cab and Radar. Of course, there is also the option of walking home, calling a sober friend, designating someone to be the driver ahead of time, or getting a ride provided by the party.
I've heard of Lyft and Uber. Didn't they start out in California? And also, isn't it really expensive? I'm broke, so I really don't have that much money to spend on cab services.
That may be the case, but there really is no price on your safety. And by the looks of it, you'll be paying much more in damages than you would have been for the receipt for your ride home. And yes, in an article written by mad.org, a report estimates that after the introduction of Uber, nearly 1,800 crashes have been prevented in California since July 2012. A survey indicated that 78% of participants agreed that ride-sharing reduces the instances of drunk driving.
That's a really good point. This crash would probably cost me over $8,000.
You are at fault here, but your friend is also just as guilty. 1, for letting you get behind the wheel in the first place, and 2, for choosing to ride with someone she knew to have been drinking. Let's cut to some footage explaining some of the alternatives that could have been taken.
Drunk driving is a serious offense. 17% of college-age students admit to getting behind the wheel after consuming 5 or more alcoholic beverages, and because of this, the rate of motor vehicle accidents skyrockets. We all have a social responsibility to look out for each other when engaging in potentially dangerous activities such as drinking. It is so important to look out for your friends when they may be in a situation that could quickly turn fatal. If you know your friend must drive that night, keep a close eye on how much they drink and ensure that they stop drinking with plenty of time for the alcohol to work its way through their system. If you feel they are still too intoxicated to safely drive, take their keys and help them find an alternate way home. As mentioned earlier, sometimes your friend may get defensive and insist they truly are okay. In these cases, use your best judgment, but if you decide it's still too risky, try explaining to them that you care about their safety and do not wish to see them or anyone else hurt. It may help to recruit some other people at the party or bar to convince your friend of your reasoning. In the best case scenario, it is beneficial to plan sober rides before the night even begins. That way, there is no confusion when it comes time to leave. This will also help alleviate the stress of keeping close tabs on someone if they are the designated driver. While it's important to watch out for your friends, you also need to hold yourself accountable. If you know you are too intoxicated to drive, don't. It is not fair to put you or the passengers' lives at risk.
Drinking and driving is a huge issue in our society, especially on college campuses. There are other ways to get home after a night of drinking, such as Uber, Lyft, Cat's Cab, or walking. It isn't worth ruining your reputation, hurting yourself or someone else. Drinking and driving is 100% preventable.
Joining us now is Anna's friend who rode with her last night. Good morning. What's your name?
Savannah.
Hello, Savannah. Tell me more about your night.
Well, I was already at the party when Anna showed up, and I only had a couple cups of hooch that night. When it was time to leave, Anna said she had her car and could drive us home. She seemed okay to me, but then again, my judgment was probably a little off. I had no idea how much she drank, but clearly it was too much to drive.
Clearly. Did you know that you can get in just as much legal trouble by riding with an intoxicated driver than if you were the one driving? Not to mention, you're underage. You're putting your own life and reputation at risk, too.
Yeah, I know. I should have thought that one through. I wasn't even that drunk. I just jumped at the opportunity of getting a ride home.
That's understandable. Another thing that you should have done was prevent Savannah from driving. If you ever suspect that they may be drunk, it's your responsibility as their friend to take their keys and ensure that they do not endanger themselves or others. Think about how you would have felt if you knew you had the opportunity to prevent an accident and it ended up being fatal. That guilt would weigh on you for the rest of your life.
I never thought of it that way. I now know how to intervene and look out for my friends.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, ladies, for joining us to share your time and stories. Hopefully you two, as well as our audience, have learned more about the consequences that can come from driving while under the influence of alcohol, as well as learned more about the alternative resources available to you and ways to prevent your friends from hurting themselves or others. I'm Megan on Lex 18 News, signing off.